KARAMOJA, which is predominantly a pastoral and agro-pastoral community, has registered soaring cases of alcohol consumption over the last decade. Uganda in 2004 registered the highest annual consumption of alcohol in the world, with 19.47 liters of pure alcohol being consumed per capita among persons aged 15 years and above, in addition to unrecorded consumption estimated at 10.7 liters of pure alcohol annually per adult. The national average stands at about 18 liters, but KARAMOJA's average stands at a staggering 48 liters per capita. Although subsequent reports have indicated a reduction in consumption, the country is still among those with the highest annual per capita consumption in the East African region and has no national monitoring system in place. Whereas alcohol consumption is widespread in Uganda, the sudden rise in alcohol consumption and the precipitous decline in health indicators in KARAMOJA are a byproduct of the long history of disenfranchisement and the exacerbation of social and economic strains set in motion by forced disarmament. The widespread and arguably irreversible loss of livestock, especially cattle, for many households, robbed communities not only of their primary source of livelihoods, but also of sacred entities, which hold enormous social, cultural, and symbolic value, according to a study titled Trauma, Loss, and Other Psychosocial Drivers of Excessive Alcohol Consumption in Uganda. Of alcohol consumption in KARAMOJA, Uganda, published by the Springer Open Journal. The sale of this liquor is unregulated and untaxed and comes into the sub-region through several supply chains, including vehicles, motorcycles, and bicycles. Evidence also shows that trucks that transport limestone to Tororo Cement Factory return carrying jerrycans packed with illicit liquor, which is sent into the deeper recesses in KARAMOJA. This often consumed in mines where hundreds of locals spend the day cracking boulders in the punishing heat. The bylaws, ordinances, and the national ban on the sale of shashe waraji are not enough to halt the sale of the illicit alcohol.
It is not a disease. It is a gun. It is a gun. It has finished our people from here. Because if I take you there to this center, down there, you will get a lot of cabrins there. Because people, they take this alcohol without hitting their nose. You know, even this, from here, we don't have even food. Yeah? That's why. So now the problem of this alcohol, we don't know even this alcohol where it's coming from.
In a long time in 2000, it wasn't there. People were taking busa. But nowadays, because of this transportation of for the vehicles like taxis, diesel lorries, even the pickies now they're bringing from Moroto. Now the way the alcohol has come here, just because of transport of the vehicles and the motorbikes and taxis. But for us, we don't know the way it comes. But otherwise, the alcohol is not something which is good.
For them, they are looking for the profit only. They don't know that they are selling gun which is killing people. Yeah, it's like that. So we try to power. We call even, there is another one day we call even we call DPC, RPC called the Aruku Richard. We power those days. They reduce a bit.
Police has often confiscated this illicit alcohol but have secretly sold it to the locals. At Kosiroi, Chupak Sub-County Moroto District, the typical day for the worker starts at the crack of dawn where hundreds stream into the mines. For a day's wages, the worker is paid as low as 7,000 shillings.
Like now when we break stones, you can break, sometimes you break when you're thirsty, no water, no food. At the end of the day, you're given 150 in a trip. Then that 150 will not help you. Maybe you have credited the money from somebody.
In Koziroi, there is a lot of child abuse. There is also a lot of sexual abuse done here in the mining. Women are abused sexually. Girls are abused sexually. Now who does all these things? We have people here, the community call them loaders. They are the one who do all these casseroles to the women.
For the thousands of disillusioned workers who provide slave labor at the mines, the consumption of alcohol is an escape route for their pain and anguish. The workers can barely afford meals in an area battered by long spells of famine. During breaks, they consume the healthy, fermented local brews but prefer the hard liquor, whose alcohol content is higher. When this alcohol was subjected to laboratory tests, it contained poison as a result of high methanol levels.
But the main reason is that waragi, that distilled alcohol, contains poison. We had the chance to take a sample to the laboratory, and we discovered that the percentage of alcohol was more than 65%. You imagine 65% of alcohol contents. It is almost like a disinfectant, but which one of us will be willing to drink a disinfectant? So the alcohol, it is too high because it is distilled without particular any control. The worst thing is that when we took to the laboratory, we discovered that it contains poison. It actually contains methanol. Methanol is a poison which can give you permanent blindness, can take you to death. We had experience even in Uganda in the past of people who died because of this.
Continuing by reaching our parishes, our church structures, we are dealing with the structures of justice and peace, and the people who come up openly and said we have come from the plague, the disease which is alcoholism. We call them Alcohol Anonymous. So these people give us testimonies, and sometimes we go to the community to even to demonstrate by getting the liver, the raw liver and the alcohol, and we put a demonstration, and the liver gets ready, and then we tell the community this is how our livers are burnt, and that's why we die when we don't know anything that has killed us.
When darkness envelops Moroto, locals converge around areas selling their liquor, which is usually consumed in small bottles. There are no restrictions as those under the age of 18 are sold this illicit liquor. Those who are too drunk can barely walk home and have to sleep by the roadside. The consumption has had visible effects on the household economy, interpersonal relationships, and the health and well-being of the communities.
That once you take more, then you are going to get every part of the body may be affected. The heart, the cardiovascular system, that as a whole, the blood vessels, you get high blood pressure. That's why we tell people with high blood pressure, please don't drink alcohol. But they will say, that alcohol is the one which was used to marry my mother. I will have to take it. But it is very dangerous. There are cancers which you can take because of alcohol, especially cancers of the mouth, cancers of the throat.
There's an upsurge in domestic violence as a result of the sale of illicit alcohol. Excessive consumption also causes cirrhosis of the liver, inflammation of the nerves, and lack of mental control, which have led in many cases to insanity, malnutrition, blindness, muscular weakness and wasting, homicidal impulses, and death.
The liver starts damaging the liver. You may get more than 10% fat in the liver, and then you say one has developed a fatty liver. Then the liver may actually die in phases when it is trying to resurrect in other places, and it becomes fibrous, it develops more fibers than the working areas. Then we say it has got cirrhosis of the, one has got cirrhosis of the liver.
This comes at the time thousands of families have been displaced from their ancestral lands as local and foreign investors make a dash for the mineral wealth buried in the sub-region's grounds.
You realize that there is a lot of extractivism, and this is guided, of course, by the whole challenge of capitalism, the capitalistic nature of extracting these resources not for the benefit of the people, but to meet the needs of the capitalist. And that is the biggest challenge we are having here in Karamoja. Now, multinational corporations have come in. And of course, these not only foreign companies, but we also have companies that are local in nature. These companies have come in. The whole problem of licensing in the sector is opaque. We have been intervening in this sector and realized that instead of engaging with the local communities, engaging with the local governments in the licensing regime, that does not happen. So what you get are companies coming from the center, from Entebbe, from Kampala, and bypassing the local structures, and you see them in the communities, fencing off people's lands, and without any proper consultation of the local structures and the community members. That is a big challenge, because here in Karamoja, land is owned customarily. And now when you see your land is being fenced off, what the resultant effect has gone to affecting other livelihood support systems, for example, pastoralism here in Karamoja. So people are no longer grazing as they used to.
A total of 17,083 square kilometers of land has been doled out for mineral exploration and extractive activities, according to official data. In 2018, Chinese mining company Sunbelt was given 3.3 square kilometers of land to set up a $13 million marble mining factory in Rupa sub-county. A year later, the company expanded its operation to cover an additional 4.1 square kilometers, ostensibly after deal with local leaders. Hundreds of families have since been pushed out of their ancestral homes, local officials say. Locals accuse Rupa Community Development Trust, a community trustee group created 3 years ago, of conniving with investors to steal their land currently guarded by the army. These mining activities have also led to environmental destruction across Karamoja's sub-region, and the few water sources have been contaminated as a result of mining activities. Here in Nabilatuk Town Council, the pernicious effect of alcohol abuse is laid bare in this graveyard where some young men were interred.
Our administration does not want to worry in Nabilatuk as a whole. Because recently, I went with Deputy RDC to pour warrant in Olachat sub-county. And we poured it in the police, about 450 jerrycans. Whereby, even though they were complaining, but this warrant kills innocent people. Because they are drinking it without knowing what they are drinking.
Karamoja, a land rich in mineral wealth, is afflicted by the paradox of plenty. Its wealth has set off a scramble amongst local and multinational blue chip firms keen to make a profit at the expense of locals.